Welcome to our news report, the cutting-edge world of news. I'm Vassilios Nicolaos Vitsilogiannis. Join us as we delve into the latest headlines using advanced AI technology, bringing you insights from diverse media outlets. Our show is produced and distributed by the Museum of Radio Broadcast and Arts. We are your getaway to a smarter, more informed tomorrow. Let's go through of each day of the past week by pinpointing the major topic of that day. Monday news deals with the tense situation, the White House expressing hope for the release of additional American hostages held by Hamas. National Security Council spokesperson John Kirby acknowledges the uncertainty, emphasizing the need to closely monitor the situation. Qatar's extension of the humanitarian pause offers a temporary respite, prompting optimism for the release of more hostages, particularly women and children. Despite the positive developments, Kirby remains cautious, stating that assurances from counterparts are yet to be received. The potential release faces minor hurdles, with the main point of contention revolving around the inclusion of two mothers with their children. The White House, eager for the safe return of hostages, lacks information on their current conditions, emphasizing the need for their swift release. In a related development, a British-Palestinian surgeon, Dr. Ghassan Abu Sittah, shares alarming insights into the humanitarian crisis in Gaza. Describing the dire conditions, he highlights the challenges of performing surgeries on children without basic medical supplies or anesthesia. Dr. Abu Sittah also dismisses claims of a Hamas command center beneath Al-Shifa hospital, countering Israeli Defense Forces statements. Meanwhile, the Biras family taken hostage on October 7 is confirmed not to be held by Hamas. IDF spokesperson Daniel Hagari emphasizes that all hostages, including the Biras family, are the exclusive responsibility of Hamas. Negotiations reveal that over 40 hostages from the October 7 incident are not held by Hamas, and the Red Cross reports their safe reception and en route transfer to Israel. As the situation unfolds, 11 hostages, all Israeli nationals, are on their way to Israeli territory, according to the IDF. The international community closely watches the ongoing developments with the hope that diplomatic efforts will lead to the safe release of all hostages, easing the tensions in the region. Now let's move on with Tuesday's major news. A devastating storm marked by icy storms of snow and rain originating from the Black Sea has claimed 10 lives in Ukraine, according to the country's interior minister. The record-breaking weather event, ongoing since Sunday, has wreaked havoc on infrastructure, blocking roads and cutting power across the nation. The already strained energy grid and rescue services, taxed by Russia's nearly 2-year invasion, now face additional challenges. Interior Minister Ihor Klimenko conveyed the grim news on Tuesday via the Telegram application, stating, as a result of worsening weather conditions, 10 people died in Odessa, Kharkiv, Mykolaiv, and Kiev regions. The casualties include 2 children, with 23 others reported injured. The storm's impact is widespread, with 411 settlements in 11 regions losing power and over 1,500 vehicles requiring rescue. Emergency responders are engaged in tireless efforts, conducting rescues and evacuations of residents stranded by snow-covered roads. Southern Ukraine, particularly the Black Sea region of Odessa, bears the brunt of the storm. Cars and buses have slid off frozen roads into fields, necessitating police intervention amidst challenging conditions. Oleg Kipper, governor of the Odessa region, reported that nearly 2,500 people were rescued and 849 vehicles, including buses and ambulances, were towed. Over 300 settlements in the region are without power. Combating the crisis, the extreme weather hits while tens of thousands of troops man front-line positions in the 21-month-old war with Russia. Fears loom that Moscow might exploit the situation to launch airstrikes on the power grid this winter. The storm's impact extends beyond Ukraine's borders, affecting Russian-annexed Crimea and southern Russia, where at least 3 fatalities have been reported. Russia's Ministry of Energy noted that approximately 1.9 million people are affected by power cuts in southern Russian region and occupied Ukrainian territories. As Ukraine grapples with the aftermath of this deadly storm, the focus remains on restoring essential services, ensuring the safety of stranded residents, and addressing the broader implications on the region's energy and security landscape. Now let's move on into Wednesday's major news. Fossil fuel companies in Canada have recently made carbon capture a central component of their commitments to reduce greenhouse gas emissions. The concept revolves around the idea of minimizing carbon released into the atmosphere while simultaneously increasing oil and gas extraction. However, questions arise about the feasibility of this approach and whether the Canadian federal government should be financing it through new multi-billion-dollar tax credits and other incentives. Carbon capture is a broad term encompassing technologies that capture carbon dioxide and inject it underground. This includes carbon capture, utilization, and storage that filters out carbon dioxide at emission sources like factories, power plants, or oil sands factories, as well as direct air capture that removes carbon dioxide already in the atmosphere. In Canada, 8 commercial carbon capture facilities operate in Alberta and Saskatchewan, with most using the captured carbon for enhanced oil recovery. As of now, these facilities capture only about 0.5% of Canada's total emissions, approximately 2.7 million tons of carbon dioxide equivalent per year. This is significantly less than the reductions required for the oil and gas sector to meet Canada's 2030 target, 40 to 45% reduction below 2005 levels. Critics argue that the technology is energy-intensive, slow to implement, and unproven at scale, making it an inadequate strategy for decarbonizing oil and gas production. Internationally, reports from the International Institute for Sustainable Development and the Institute for Energy, Economics and Financial Analysis suggest that failed or underperforming carbon capture projects outnumber successful ones. The International Energy Agency has urged oil and gas companies to let go of the illusion that large-scale carbon capture is the solution to the global climate crisis. Angela Carter, an associate professor at Memorial University, dismisses carbon capture as a viable solution for emission reduction, emphasizing the need for public funds to support proven technologies. A recent United Nations report underscores the urgency, stating that a 42% reduction in projected 2030 emissions is necessary to limit global warming to 1.5 Celsius by the end of the century. Despite concerns and critics, billions of dollars in Canadian taxpayer money have already been allocated to carbon capture projects, with more set aside for future initiatives. The federal government, while committing to eliminate inefficient fossil fuel subsidies, continues to support carbon capture through a new tax credit, the Clean Fuels Fund, and other subsidy programs. The Pathways Alliance, a group representing major oil sands producers, is particularly reliant on federal funding for its $16.5 billion carbon capture project. Let's take a look at Thursday's major news. The British Museum chairman, George Osborne, pledged to continue working on an exchange deal to allow the Parthenon marbles, also known as the Elgin marbles, to be displayed in Greece despite a diplomatic fallout sparked by Rishi Sunak. The Prime Minister scrapped a planned meeting with his Greek counterpart Kyriakos Mitsotakis after accusing him of grandstanding about the return of the ancient artifacts. The debate over the Elgin marbles has reignited this week following a diplomatic spat caused by Mr. Sunak opting to cancel talks with Mr. Mitsotakis at the 11th hour after accusing him of reneging on a promise not to campaign for their return while in Britain. Greece has long demanded the return of the historic works, which were removed by Lord Elgin from occupied Athens in the early 19th century when he was the British ambassador to the Ottoman Empire. Part of the friezes that adorned the 2,500-year-old Parthenon temple on the Acropolis Hill, the Elgin marbles, have been displayed at the British Museum in London for more than 200 years. The remainder of the friezes are in a purpose-built museum in Athens. Despite the fallout, the British Museum chairman is pressing on with negotiations on the marbles, also known as the Parthenon sculptures, whether or not Rishi Sunak meets the Greek Prime Minister. Mitsotakis said the dispute had helped draw international attention to Greece's long-standing claim. The artifacts are on display in the British Museum for more than 200 years. Now, the two European allies with center-right governments have been at loggerheads over the Parthenon marbles for decades. Now, Friday's major news. It deals with the opening of COP28 in Dubai the previous day. Friday media all over the world had an intense interest in the 28th session of the Conference of the Parties, COP28, in Dubai, with a strong call for accelerated action and higher ambition to address the escalating climate crisis. The crucial summit, which is taking place in the United Arab Emirates until December 12, aims to tackle the pressing issues related to climate change and agree on ways to mitigate its impact. UN Secretary General Antonio Guterres emphasized the urgency of the situation, stated that the world is minutes to midnight in its goal of limiting warming to 1.5 degrees Celsius. He called on leaders to prevent a planetary crash and burn and urged for an agreement to phase out fossil fuels, aligning with the 1.5 degree limit. In a significant announcement, the UAE president revealed a $30 billion fund to bridge the climate finance gap, demonstrating the country's commitment to supporting the global south with a clean energy transition and other climate projects. This fund is expected to play a crucial role in helping vulnerable countries facing climate emergencies. The summit has also seen discussions about the role of the host country in the context of the climate talks. Leaked documents revealed the UAE's plans to use its position to strike oil and gas deals, raising questions about bias and self-interest in the negotiations. The UN body responsible for COP28 emphasized the importance of hosts acting without bias or self-interest. COP28 or COP28 presents a critical opportunity for world leaders to reassess their efforts since the 2015 Paris Agreement and make substantial commitments to limit emissions and combat climate change. The outcomes of the summit are expected to have far-reaching implications for the future of the planet and the collective efforts to address the climate crisis. Our news report has provided you with the latest updates and insights on various topics, from local news to international events. We hope you found the news informative and engaging. As we sign off, we want to thank you for tuning in and encouraging you to stay connected with us for more updates and news. Have a great weekend.